This video is F. Gardner's question to you, to my fans. I want to know, what do you want me to talk about? It could be anything. It doesn't even need to be limited to my books necessarily. I'm a guy of many interests. It could be, we could talk about my thoughts on other conspiracies. Like I've talked about a number of conspiracies I believe in. It could be questions about theology. Like I've talked about how I'm Buddhist. It doesn't need to be limited to Buddhism, whatever. Movies, TV, video games, music, anime. I love anime. Yeah, some of my favorites. Just give you general ideas, things that I like, I guess. Yeah. So here, I'll start with literature because I'm F. Gardner, famous novelist. Favorite books? Well, obviously it wouldn't be fair if I listed my own books. I'm proud of all my books. I wouldn't have written them if I, didn't think they were good stories. But yeah, I don't know if that'd be fair if I listed if I just suddenly said, my favorite book of all time is called The Crocodile. That would be biased because that's my book. So, favorite books, ever? That's kind of a two-part question. There's fiction and then theology, because those are kind of, it's not really fair to compare those. So let me think. Well, I'm Buddhist, so I'm not just gonna list a bunch of sutras because that's so separate from if I were to mention The Great Gatsby, that's a classic work of fiction. So yeah, this video, maybe that could be a separate video about theology. So yeah, that's a possibility for a video if you guys are interested. Maybe I'll do that too. Yeah, so do you have favorite books? Yeah, well, for me, first off, yeah, The Great Gatsby. Yeah, I'll list off fiction novels. Yeah, that's one of the best. I can remember kids in school, when I had to read that, I think, yeah, in middle school, and then in high school, it was just a coincidence. It was I had to read it then, and then back in middle school, and then again in high school. And it's a great book. And I remember kids at the time in middle school saying oh, this book is so boring, and I didn't understand what they were talking about. I thought, well, no, this is great. This is a masterpiece. Which it is. So yeah, I love The Great Gatsby. I think that's one of the greatest stories ever written. Then you've got the classics and the Greeks. Yeah, I'm a big fan of Homer. So those, the Divine Comedy, also a timeless classic. I guess that gets a little bit into religion, but it just popped up into my head as a book I like. Even though I'm Buddhist, I still appreciate it like that. I think that's a great novel. I grew up with Goosebumps. Yeah, I love those. Still as an adult, they're fun to read. And Stephen King, let's see, The Shining, and then its sequel that I read when it came out years later, Dr. Sleep. Yeah, both great. Carrie, I think that was Stephen King's first book. Yeah, that was great. And It, yeah, wow, that's also a masterpiece. Yeah, everything Stephen King is done, I love. And then short stories. I had mentioned I Have No Mouth and I Must Scream before, famous short story. I like that. That's a little bit different, short story, but still, it doesn't necessarily need to be limited to novels or novellas. It's still a great story. That was the length it needed to be. And yeah, just off the top of my head, and yeah, I would say, yeah, those are the first ones that come, off the top of my head that really left an impact, an impression on me, just off my head, that I really love. Those books. Let's see what other things. Anime. F. Gardner's a huge anime fan. Yeah, and being that I grew up in the 90s, that means I grew up with Pokemon. Yeah, my life was all about Pokemon back in the day. Watching anime, playing the video game, collecting the trading cards. Yeah, it was an awesome time. The manga, that too. Anyway, yeah, Pokemon, Dragon Ball Z, everything Dragon Ball related. Dragon Ball Z, Dragon Ball GT, Dragon Ball Super. Dragon Ball GT, I remember when that first came out, I remember, this is weird, I remember not liking it, but then like years later when I was in college, I decided, for whatever reason, I was like binge watching, as they say nowadays, all of Dragon Ball, and I finished Dragon Ball Z. Then I thought, I watched Dragon Ball GT again. Just, I don't know, because I was in the mood, because I had just watched all of Dragon Ball, all of Dragon Ball Z, all of the Dragon Ball Z movies, and I ran out of things to read. I reread all the manga of Dragon Ball, and I thought, I'll rewatch Dragon Ball GT, and I did, and I thought it was fucking amazing. Like, and I remember thinking, wait, why didn't I like this back then? It's like, I don't know, one of those things that like grows on you or something. Yeah, it's like it felt like I was watching a different show all of a sudden or whatever. Like, yeah, I was picking up on things I didn't notice, like how the ending was like really profound. I don't want to spoil that. If you've never seen Dragon Ball GT and you're a Dragon Ball fan and just haven't seen that, go check it out. It's way better than people say. Like, well, I don't normally like to say people are wrong, because taste is, things like this are subjective, but like when I rewatched that, I genuinely enjoyed it, and I remember thinking, wait, why didn't I like this back then? Like when it was like whatever, 20 years whatever ago when it came out. I remember not liking it, but then rewatching it, I loved it, and I totally changed my mind, totally changed my opinion. Dragon Ball GT turned out to be great, and it didn't occur to me till I rewatched it in college. And when I rewatched it in college, and I realized, no, this is a good show. I like it. So yeah, it's interesting. But there's so many other animes I like. I like Paranoia Agent. I rewatch Paranoia Agent every year. That's how good that is. It's only like, 13 episodes or something like that. It's pretty short, way shorter than most anime series. Yeah, Paranoia Agent, like, wow. Yeah, if you've never seen Paranoia Agent, like, after this video, look that up, watch that. It is that good. It is, like, profound. It is mind-blowing. Yeah, big fan. I can't recommend that enough. I love that. It's phenomenal, incredible. It's like one of the best things ever made, period. Monster. Yeah, that's another great anime. That's another one really high up there. I guess it's kind of whatever, weird and spooky, like Paranoia Agent, but for different reasons. That one's a little more grounded in like whatever reality, whereas Paranoia Agent is more like supernatural kind of stuff. But Monster, yeah, wow, that's great. And it's longer too. That one's like, I think it's like 70 something episodes or whatever. And recently I watched Platinum End. Yeah, that was great. I remember, and I've seen some people online say, oh, it's not as good as Death Note, because it's by the guy that did Death Note. I watched it and I thought, honestly, I think it's like just as good as Death Note. Maybe I might even like it a little more. The more I think about it, the more I like it too. Yeah, Platinum End. Yeah, that was really good. And everybody I know that's seen it to the end ended up liking it too. Yeah, so it seems like the people that say I didn't like it, it's like they just watched a little bit and they didn't see how it ended, and they're like, it's interesting. So some things are like that, where it's hard to have an opinion until you're done with it, whether that be film, anime, literature, whatever. What else? Yeah, those are probably off the top of my head. Oh, how can I forget? I love Miyazaki movies. My Neighbor Totoro, that's my favorite. I love all of his movies, but My Neighbor Totoro, that's my favorite. I think that might have been the first anime I ever watched. I watched that as a kid. I had the VHS tape of that, and yeah, it's just spellbinding. It's, even if you watch that as an adult, it's just as good. Yeah, so My Neighbor Totoro. And movies, I'd mentioned The Shining before. Oh, it's also a book, but yeah, the movie, the Stanley Kubrick adaptation. Yeah, The Shining. Yeah, that's probably my favorite movie. And oh, Pokemon the first movie. Yeah, that. Oh, I guess that's anime. Well, it's an anime movie. So is Totoro, but I'll mention that too. Yeah, Pokemon the first movie. I've seen all the Pokemon movies, but the original is my favorite. Um, Pokemon 3 was really good too. So was Pokemon Forever, but yeah, Pokemon the first movie. That's my favorite of the Pokemon movies, and one of my favorite movies in general. The fact that people always frequently mention the first one is like, oh, that's my favorite Pokemon movie. That shows how good it is because it's true. It really is that good. It's great. And people were in the '90s, like, was it '99, like very end of the '90s when they came out. I remember when I was a kid, all the other kids, myself, it was like we were acting like the world. This is like the end of the world, like the level of hype for that movie. It was just unreal. And Burger King had toys. I remember us constantly going to Burger King. I wanted to get all the Pokemon toys back then when they came out. Then yeah, that was really cool. Those are nice memories. And yeah, I'll rewatch that movie too. Pretty much like at least once a year, actually. Yeah, Pokemon the first movie. I love that. It's classic. And let's see, what did I say? So books, anime, movies, oh, video games. Yeah, well, Pokemon. Yeah, that too. Yeah, the originals. Yeah, I mean, everyone was so obsessed with that when I was a kid. The original Pokemon games and Gold and Silver. Yeah, that was phenomenal. How like it had the whole rest of the second half of Pokemon Gold and Silver. You could travel back to the first games, back to Kanto, and whereas Johto was where it takes place most of the game. Yeah, so Pokemon Gold and Silver, and then I really like Pokemon X and Y and Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire. I love the Mega Evolutions, and even though I don't believe in evolution, I believe in it in the sense of Pokemon, at least in the fictional setting. Since I'm Buddhist, I don't believe in evolution. But anyway, that doesn't take the fun out of Pokemon. I know Pokemon's not real either, but it's awesome. So yeah, I like the Mega Evolutions, and I don't know why they took those out. I hope they add them back in the new games. That'd be really cool. That'd be rad. I hope they do that. So Nintendo, Game Freak, if you're watching, if Gardner wants you to, he would like you to add back Mega Evolutions to the next Pokemon game. Please do that, okay? Anyway, yeah, video games. Oh, Sonic. I'm also a big Sonic fan. Yeah, big Sonic fan. Yeah, that was also popular in the 90s. Yeah, so all the Sega Genesis games. I even had a Sega CD back then. I had Sonic CD. That's how big a Sonic fan I am. And, well, man, and then later past the 90s, the adventure games, Adventure 1 and 2, wow, those blew my mind. It had the Chow Garden. You could raise the chows. I don't know why they haven't brought that back. That makes no sense. Sega, Sonic Team, if you're watching, bring back the Chow Garden. Why has that never been brought back? It doesn't make any sense. If someone knows why they stopped doing that, comment down below, please. Like, that was the best part of that game in the sense that, like, for, like, replay value, people kept going back and raising the chows. The main, like, story and everything was great, too, the story mode or whatever, adventure mode. But that was the reason people kept, like, replaying it over and over is because you could raise the chows. Yeah. Okay, anyway, yeah, so video games. What other subjects? I like theater. Yeah. Phantom of the Opera. Yeah, I'm a huge Andrew Lloyd Webber fan. I love everything Andrew Lloyd Webber has done. I listen to Phantom of the Opera like once a week, at least, sometimes more. The whole soundtrack, the original cast recording and everything with Michael Crawford, the original Phantom of the Opera. I listen to that. Yeah, I love Phantom of the Opera. So if you want to talk, whatever, theater questions are okay too. I love theater, musical theater, opera, like La Traviata, Don Giovanni, whatever. F. Gardner likes everything. Like I said, I like books. Of course I like books. I've written 13 of them. Love books. books, anime, video games, movies, TV shows. Oh yeah, I mentioned Seinfeld in a previous episode, how much I like Seinfeld. Yeah, yeah, Seinfeld and Twin Peaks. Yeah, yeah, that's one of my favorites. I love Twin Peaks. I love everything David Lynch has done. So shout out to David Lynch. If you're watching, you're the man. Love your stuff. Yeah, Twin Peaks. And yeah, those are F. Gardner's favorite things for whatever you want to call it. Media, I guess, off the top of my head. Just some, I like a great deal of many things, but those are some of my favorite things that come to mind. Anyway, I want to know what you guys want me to talk about, or what you're interested. Could, like I said, it could be my books. Doesn't have to be limited to my books. It could be any number of things, type of stuff I mentioned, or otherwise. I could talk about comic books. I'll mention some of my favorite comic books too. While I'm at it, real quick. I don't know how that slipped my mind. I love comic books. The Pokemon and the Sonic comics. Yeah, those are great. I read those all the time in the 90s. Yeah, those are all awesome. The Archie, they made the Sonic comics in the 90s that I used to read. I have a big stack of like the first like 200 issues, a big stack of them, and I still have. And yeah, those are awesome. And but yeah, other than that, yeah, the Pokemon comics or manga, there was the Electric Tale of Pikachu, and then there was Pokemon Adventures. I think that's also known as Pokemon Special, if I'm remembering correctly. Yeah, yeah, those are both great and different from one another. They're like different storylines. And other comics. I'm a big fan of Grant Morrison. Everything Grant Morrison has done is great. His whole entire Batman run. A run means like a writer's run on like a comic series, and like for like that they did this whatever issue 50 of this through issue 75 or whatever. And Grant Morrison wrote like I think like it was like over 100 issues of Batman in like the early or mid 2000s or something like that. Yeah, that was great. And same with Scott Snyder. Yeah, Scott Snyder. Yeah, his entire Batman run is great too. Yeah, so everything, not just Batman, but like just off the top of my head, I like a lot of Superman stuff too. Like Whatever Happened to the Man of Tomorrow by Alan Moore. Yeah, that's a great old Superman comic. And All-Star Superman, that's by Grant Morrison. That's great too. Frank Miller. Yeah, well, The Dark Knight Returns. And I love the Dark Knight Strikes Again. That's underrated. I remember that was like, there's a lot of hype for that when that came out, and some people were like really mixed, but I thought that was great. I thought that was just as good as The Dark Knight Returns. Yeah, that, and everything Frank Miller's done, all the Sin City, 300, yeah. Let's see, just to give you a general idea of things I like. So yeah, what did we talk about? We talked about comic books, in addition to literature, movies, video games, anime, even theater. Yeah, so as you can see, I've got a wide variety of interests. We could talk about whatever. We could talk about jokes. We could talk about, yeah, like, like F. Gardner, what do you think of this, I don't know, comedian, or what are your thoughts on this conspiracy theory? Do you think this is legit, or do you think it's bogus? Do you think it's real or not? Or it could just be a general book recommendation. I'm always looking for new things to read, being that I'm a writer. I love literature. Yeah, so leave a comment down below. Let me know what you guys feel like hearing me talk about. We'll take it from there. Bye.